The word was spoken by the mouth of the prophets. Let it be. Times of hard working and poverty of souls. The flesh is at a crossroads. Behind the walls of lies, vices of hearts, the human heart despises the truth. Doomed to misery, blind slaves, systems of hungry spawn. And among all this crowd, nuggets hide in empty apartments on the outskirts of cities, tormented by everyone and at all times, utter the word of life with pure lips. The weak string will sink into the deep of oppression, and after it, a new life will be reborn under the all-seeing eye of God, the Spirit of Truth.
I welcome you to the platform Movement to the Light. We'll not tell you how to act, how to think, and what to do. We only give access to information and how to dispose of it. Decide for yourself. I want to say in advance that you should not look for justice, but you should look for yourself and your place in this world. Because in the world of manipulation and deception, it is difficult to find the right answers. There will be no answers from our side, only keys will be given, so that you can independently participate in the assembly of the game called life. And today it's time for the 13th series. Dependencies and Needs. The world is not something homogeneous, but there is something changeable. The variability of the world is built from needs, since the need is the norm of life. The norm is the basis that flows from the order. The order is based on those needs that multiply life and bring variety to it. Diversity is an opportunity to try life in all its colors. Diversity its needs helps a person to live life in the most intense and interesting way. The main thing a person should remember is that everything written is true. If there is an order in it, and any order comes from the Spirit of Truth. A person's needs are not always spiritual, but they are also physical. These needs are the norm if the spirit dominates over matter. If something else happens, a person puts physics above the spirit and becomes a hostage of false thoughts, false feelings, and false desires. Dependence on lies shows that a person has not yet natured, shows that a person is not yet a person but an animal. The animal needs of people are a corner left to them as a legacy, so that a person can choose the path of development or the path of the animal principle. Being a man is a difficult task, but there is a necessary task, because being born a man doesn't mean becoming one. To become a human being means to see in oneself the needs for changes in the name of the Spirit of Truth. These changes make the multiplication of life on earth the main task, helping a person to find the truth. Where needs turn into dependencies, there is no truth, because there is no choice in dependence, but there is a lie. Every lie stems from weakness, and ignorance stems from a person's desire to close his imperfection using a false path. This path doesn't allow you to find yourself, but only distances a person from his true purpose. A society where addiction rule is a society of unhappy people who are mired in vices. All dependencies are built on vices, and all needs are built on self-knowledge. These are the rules of life. There are unwritten concepts, but there are concepts dictated by the Spirit of Truth. These rules a person needs to search independently, because he who is looking for will always find. but every person will find what is close to his heart. A cold heart will find itself in dependencies, making a person a hostage of situations, while a hot heart will find itself in needs, making a person a sculptor of his life. For a sculptor is a creator, and the creator proceeds from the need to make the world a better place, sacrificing himself, his time and his life, temporary life, for the sake of eternal and real life which a person inherits at the end of his century. Usually when creating a script for a new series of programs, I use materials from various spiritual books to emphasize the necessary thoughts. Today our eyes will more often turn to practical psychology, since it will help to describe the problems of the modern world as widely and qualitatively as possible. As you have already understood, in this program we'll talk about needs and dependencies and about their impact on society. To do this, we'll need to talk through the base, which will give a general understanding of the essence of the things. First, let's talk about the person himself. Many people believe that when they reach the age of majority, they become truly adaptive people. But this is not so, and not at all. There are a huge number of people in our society who already have gray hair, but they are not far away from young children in their psyche. Let me explain. In previous programs we have analyzed the psyche by type, talking about how it affects to a person's life as a whole. A link to these materials will be attached at the bottom in the description of the video. Now we will slightly go through the psychotypes to discuss the causes and consequences. So we should first define the needs and dependencies. Needs are things that every healthy person needs and thanks to which his life becomes better. And addictions are things that every unhealthy person needs and thanks to which his life illusory becomes better for a short time, but ultimately leads to a deterioration of life. To have a more accurate idea of the needs, we should go through the list of those things that improve the quality of life. A balanced diet, health, ecology, strong personal relationships, a full-fledged intimate life, realizing the potential, full rest, spiritual fullness. When all the needs are closed, a person feels as happy, as satisfied with life as possible. All these needs are an important component, and even the exclusion of just one item from a person's life worsens the quality of the life. I will give a couple of examples to finally close this paragraph. If everything is fine in a person's life, but let's say he doesn't have a full-fledged intimate life, the person will not be unhappy because his hormonal background will not have an outlet, which often leads to psychosomatic diseases. Or, for example, a person is doing well, but there is no time for rest. As a result, a person will get sooner or later emotional burnout, which has several stages, and when the last one comes, a person will even hate his business. Therefore, it is very important to close all the needs in order to stay in good shape for the rest of your life, because balance is the most important aspect of any business cause. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. This is a very important remark, because most people are mired in vices, and all vices come from addictions, and all addictions are the results of a borderline level of the psyche. Let me explain. The borderline level of the human psyche is the most common level on the planet. It is divided into 4 types. First type, a person has a small distractions and is ready to switch, a neurotic personality type. Second type, a person has all sorts of dependencies on someone and on something. Third type, a person has a depressive mood, which is expressed in dysthymia or after 6 months. It turns into a prolonged depression. The fourth type, a person already has a suicidal tendencies because of the huge pain in the soul. What does this mean for each person in particular? This means that people are trying in every possible way to fight addictions, sometimes even organizing whole actions and events on this occasion. But at the same time, the struggle is only with the consequence and not with the causes that cause addictions, so humanity is marking time, because it's stupid to fight something without knowing the reasons. That's why it makes no sense to quit smoking. It makes no sense to quit drinking, but it makes sense to grow mentally. And then you just won't want to smoke and drink. And how can a person grow mentally? The fact is that people have basic emotions that are inherent in it by nature. They exist in any case, they work fully or not, but the lack of realization of these emotions create distortions in the psyche, and any distortions require balance and science. A person himself can't reproduce emotions fully to balance his state. Most people resort to surfactants to solve this issue. That is why people drink, smoke, like gambling, like dangerous sports, are eager to earn a lot of money, want to have thousands of lovers or mistresses, and so on. The list of addiction is endless, but the reason for them is one type second of the borderline level of the psyche or lower. In general, before I started writing a script for this series, I spent a lot of time thinking about the vices of people. To be honest, I don't even mind that people have some flaws, because there is nothing perfect in the world. But going through the lists of vices that people have, I can say for sure which vice I would definitely call the most important today. And this is laziness. If you honestly put your hand on your heart, it's safe to say that almost everyone can get rid of their addictions, almost everyone can get better, can change, but human laziness. This is probably the voice that slows down everything in the world. If you knew how to try a time of lazy people who are too lazy to live, too lazy to think, too lazy to create something useful, too lazy to work, and this list is as huge as the whole ocean is huge. In the end, it turns out that people are too lazy to change, so they don't grow mentally and keep your mind on the edge, and it requires a balancing due to external factors leading up to their dependencies, and so is the life of the majority of these people live completely unjust life at the end of his days, but confidently thinking that they are doing nothing wrong. But do not be deceived, neither the sexual immortal, nor idolaters, nor men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. The list is certainly more than what was listened, and it is already enough for most to go to the hell frying pan. Probably, although I'm even sure that the question will arise, and what does psychology and some religious stories have to do with it? Here finally is a good question, because for many people psychology is something from the field of science, and religion is something from the field of fiction and speculation. But this is only at first glance. The fact is that religion is a practical component on any healthy person, and without it, it is impossible to become a fully healthy person. Many people will probably ask pejoratively again, what is that? The fact is that I personally don't know a single healthy person, so there are a couple of friends with a neurotic mentality, and the rest are all boulder guards. If we go back to the beginning of the program, we discussed with you that a healthy psyche requires balance, and how to get it if our world is very cruel and everywhere. This idea pushes us to the answer that living exclusively in the world with a material implication, it is impossible to find or create conditions that contribute to the development of a healthy personality. But if you pay attention to a religion from a particular point of view, then a person who is an image of God always wants to reunite with him. This pushes a person to visit the temple, and when this happens, a person receives grace, which from the point of view of an amateur gives peace to the soul, but from the point of view of psychological balances the emotional state of a person. As a result, it turns out that a person through God and only through him will be able to bring his psyche to a healthy level and become a full-fledged person. And it would seem that this is a wonderful decision, but only people come to the church not to become better, but because it is necessary, because someone does it from his environment, because I want to put a candle, I want to make bows, and as a result, instead of transformation, we get an ordinary standing at the liturgy, which doesn't lead to anything, because the church doesn't end after Sunday worship. It should be in the heart of a person who continues to work on himself on the other days, because for you were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. But unfortunately, most people inside have only a rod, but it is brightly decorated with a virtual Instagram bow. And honestly, if you don't want to change, don't change, but remember you will die, because 80 years old of life on earth is nothing. Before the eternity then will open to people with an open heart, because they are hungry for grace and greedily seek knowledge. But to become such, you need to strive to become better, and for this, you will need to calm the most important vice of humanity, to calm your own laziness, which has encircled you like poison ivy, pulling the life out of you, but with an abundance, and moistening your everyday life with a daily portion of poison, which is called pride. Remember that closing needs are a duty if you want to understand something in this life and want to understand life itself. You will have to make efforts, and these efforts must be significant, because so many people are passionate about spiritual practices, but they only forget that faith without works is dead. And spiritual affairs are strikingly different from worldly affairs. You need to study a lot of literature, do a lot of work, and yourself through humility and effort to find a temple in your heart, reuniting it with the temple of God, and all of these puzzles in these pictures of the world comes together correctly. I want to believe that you will succeed in inheriting the life that is real. Results. Needs improve the quality of life and require full satisfaction. Vices worsen life but are a consequence of PRL. An increase in the level of the psyche automatically leads to an improvement in the quality of life. The increase in the level of the psyche is possible thanks to people to a lesser extent, and to a greater extent thanks to a grace. Grace comes to exclusively from God. The closerly of needs, a healthy psyche and spiritual work makes a person a full-fledged person who inherits eternal and real life. And one last thing, remember, one series will not give an exhaustive answer to everything. We did this intentionally so that you would come to the conclusion that there is no one answer to everything, that the answer to everything lies in the answers to many questions. We'll analyze these questions in the following series, which will complement each other so that you have a complete picture. Because the whole, although it is a combination of many details, is not always identical to them. Like a cake, although it is a combination of different ingredients, it is not ingredients initially, and in order of the individual ingredients so to still become a cake and even delicious. This will require making the right answer. We'll finish this today. Peace be upon you and your home.